Welcome everyone to the big day of OSL we all love to see. We are on to our next group stage for the first game of today's series, and by God, we've got a few games for you all tonight, but we're going to be starting it with Renewal versus Nyx. First setup is Deathslinger on the Suffolk 1. Bit of a unseen set, you don't typically see this set too often, so it's going to be interesting to see what our teams bring to the table and what kind of shots we'll be willing to see, since you can pull off some pretty nice little shots through some crevices and cracks in walls and stuff with the Deathslinger, so I'm very excited to see what shots our killer players are able to pull off on the Suffo one, and what our survivors will do to counteract it. A very nice build as well from our Deathslinger as well. We do see the Cigar and the Warden's Keys as always what you'd expect to see for a Deathslinger, with Ruin, Undying, Pain Res, and Corrupt. A lot of heavy regression if our totems don't get touched earlier on, and with these scratch marks that we're seeing, we've already spotted, looks like we're about to be getting to our first chase very shortly. I think Undying also giving us some aura as well on the logs, giving us 2 survivors on our 4 side to start things off. Looks like we're going to try and push towards our, I think this is our Claudette, yes, Lyriel on the 3 side for our first chase of the trial, and Paladin immediately being dropped as well to try and make some distance, and unfortunately not getting our first shot to hit and connect to get our first tag of the trial. So already getting some survivors spotted out. And LZY being caught out on the top mid side as well, going for a quick little M1. Yoko just getting a quick tag, and we'll be probably trying to follow up with a shot to get our first down of the trial very early on before our survivors really have had any time to like cross to our generators or get onto anything. And yeah, a beautiful shot secures that down onto LZY for our first down of the trial. Maybe a pain res, but in saying that it is fairly early on, so we may opt not to save our pain res. Nope, we've got literally 2 pain res hooks right next to each other, so it looks like we will be cashing in that pain res early just to make sure that if our survivors did cross and manage to get onto a generator, that top or highest progress gen is being smacked with some regression. So pretty good start for Yokai for our slinger set. I'm not alone though. While I've been yappering on, we have the big man himself, Chief, joining me. I hope you're awake and ready, Chief, because Slinger for our first set, very interesting one to start things off.
Oh, yes, awake barely, chat. I got out of bed 7 minutes ago. Hunter was going to be here until I showed up randomly. But yes, hello everybody. Welcome on in. OSL Week 3, Day 2 is well underway. LZY has already been hooked once. We do see him venturing towards the back of Shaq now. He's going to have to take another chase with Yokai, and Shaq is a very interesting tile against the Deathslinger. We know that these windows can be shot through, and what's it matter when you can just hit the first shot around the corner? That's LZY on the ground yet again. That's going to be his second hook of the trial in exchange of a single generator so far. Yokai definitely playing this quite well. He's done exactly what he's needed to be able to get this down and put himself in a really decent position, considering the fact Deathslinger typically is not a killer, especially on Suffo, that will be achieving 4Ks, but Yokai quite nicely does have this hook here on his bottom side. He has a decent enough 3-gen that he can work around, and it kind of connects into his mid-map quite nicely, with the 2 mid-map gens being 8 and 3, especially considering the fact that he does have Ruin and Undying on one of those totems being in the mid-map as well. As we can see, Yokai really just in a position where he can sit here and hold this cross. Seeing some scratch marks at 3 now. He's going to try and bait out a tag. This is Lorraine running the edge map, but a tag is inevitable. The M1 does occur, and that's going to send Lorraine all the way back to 1. The shot barely unable to be fired, as we have just enough distance to send it away, and that does mean Lorraine will live another day. But Yokai, needing to be careful now, will head back to his basement and ensure that nobody's going to get out of there for free. LZY, oh my word, Yokai's gone for a bit of a flick after that shot. That's a bit of class there, and he's going to drag with Cigar. This will mean that Hermes is going to be unable to make this trade, I'm pretty sure, but he's sending it nonetheless. He's got to try and do as much as he can. The shot misses, but I don't know if LZY will get off the hook in time regardless. But no, Hermes makes it just in time. We're going to grab onto the man after the fact and try to keep him in basement for as long as possible. That's his BT gone. He's now trapped. Hermes on the ground. LZY will not be making it out this basement, Ghosty. He's going to be forcing this locker, and that will be him exiting the trial at 3. 2.
Yeah, no, it was 3, but we did see the 3rd gen of the trial, thankfully, popping for our survivors. But as you mentioned, Chief, and I could not agree more, Slinger is not a killer you would expect normally to see a 4K on, but we've had a survivor removed from the trial with 2 gens remaining, And another basement hook potentially coming up, if not that pain raise. But no, Yoko is happy to take another basement hook onto Hermes, and this is a really good position to be in at the moment. Played that basement hook will unhook very well too, considering that had to be like literally a microsecond off LZY just dying, and poor Hermes just being trapped in the basement with the Death Slinger walking down the stairs. So not the best situation for our two survivors, but Yokai in a very comfortable position. Unfortunately, though, while all that action was happening at the shack, we did lose both of our totems, Ruin and Undying, both gone. So we are relying heavily on Pain Raiders and just raw kicks of our generators for the remainder of the trial to be our regression. But already, this is a phenomenal result to start things off, and a beginning of a good win condition to be setting for our teams as well. Hopping into a locker, I'm not sure what the players... Oh, both of our survivors were hopping into a locker. I'm wondering if head-on was a play there, but as we know, we do have the 15 seconds of BT, but against the Deathslinger that can just hold you, it doesn't really give too much. Nancy Maya has to try and disappear, throws the Cracker down after Shaq to disorientate Yokai and try and slip away, but looks like Yokai wants more. They're not done with Maya. They are wanting that tag onto Maya as well to secure that extra health set and potentially get sluggy with it, because we could be honestly looking at a 4K, I'd say 1 at this stage, if Lyriel has hopped back onto the generator while our other two survivors are kind of trapped and stuck playing Shack at the moment. But yep, and there it is. Lyriel at least securing that 4K1 if things were to go fully south, and Myers is trying to buy as much time as they can. Not a bad little filler palette to be playing on this side, and I think we just saw Lyriel coming through from our mid side as well, so we have pretty much every survivor down the bot side, I believe, if I was not mistaken, and did spot Lyriel, maybe trying to get the pickup onto Hermes to try and get things back into play. We do see, yeah, Lyriel is crossing down from our 7 side, does get the pickup onto Hermes, but we have 2 injured survivors both on the bot side, and we have our Redeemer reloaded, so we don't even need to use it at this stage. We can just throw the big M1 at Lyriel, and we know that Hermes was down our bottom side last time we checked, so all of our survivors are by Shack, so if Yokai can spot out Hermes in this next short couple of seconds, this will be a 4K1 on the Deathslinger, and with these scratch marks, Chief, I think that that's just about secured.
Yeah, 100% Hermes will end up on the ground once this Regima shot is chained together. That's him, finally, out of the trial. And you know what? Yokai has played that exceptionally well. Every single interaction he had following that basement hook was exceptionally well played. I don't think, realistically, there was much our survivors could have done in those situations better, because it's kind of just what happens when a slinger has a hook in the basement. You kind of just got to let that guy either die, because there's no saving that man. Truly, he's gone. He's gone with the wind. Unfortunately, the wind did not collect us some stages out the door. But regardless, could have either let them die, or you could have waited for Yokai to play out of position and cross to the top side, which, to be fair, he never did. So the opportunity for this was slim to none. But yeah, trying to trade against the basement hook on the slinger, which we saw Hermes attempt, just can't do it. And unfortunately,
Welcome back all, thanks for sticking with us through that very short intermission while we set up our second game of our first set of the series between Renewal and Nyx. Renewal's Yokai set up a very nice result of a 4K1 with some beautiful work with the Shack and basement, securing that result with that bit of slugging happening towards the end as well. So if you missed it, it was a very quick game, very well played by Renewal, but Nyx is up now to try and at least achieve that 4K1 result again to get the tie condition, or better it with a 4K2. And it's all going to be on Lyriel. We did see to send the same add-ons being applied, and it looks like we're pretty much copy-pasting the exact same build as well, which I think it's a fairly good play. It's a very nice build and works very well with the Killer Light Singer, and we saw what it did in the first game as well, so we'll have to see if Lyriel's able to maybe get some Shack shenanigans with basement happening again as well, or if they are a secret Deathslinger pro, you know, one of those can pull off the Nazi shots and all the crazy stuff that you can sometimes do with this killer if you know your shots and how this killer's power works as well. So looks like we're going for a bit of a slower start compared to our previous set with just looking for the cross, as we believe our survivors are on the top side, and it does look like we have a similar setup with that more bottom side orientated gens, possibly. I could be wrong by that though, but we only do see a nice 3-gen on the top side, so most likely with that Gen 3 would consider it to be a 4-gen, but could also potentially hold our bot side. Yeah, no. Oh no, the bot side's not looking too good at all. Okay, so it looks like Lyrium may want to play for that more top side, since yeah, this bottom side gen split is literally the two corners of 5 and 7 plus that gen over at the 8/9 side. So yeah, I would expect that we're going to be looking more for that top side defense for Lyrial to try and hold this much nicer 3 gen setup that we have on the main top mid and 10 side. So yeah, this will be a nice showing of what Lyra can do. Our survivor's doing exceptionally well of stealthing at the start as well. Haven't found anyone yet, so definitely flip the spectrum of what a slinger set could be, and oh, and crazy little head on to start things off, and the firecracker. So Chief, we're off with a bang with a head on, but it doesn't look like we're even committed to the chase. So what do we think about this set though? A 4K2 win con on Death Slinger.
I think a 4K2 is going to be very, very difficult in any circumstances, but more so because of what Lorraine has been dealt by the cards. We have terrible bot side gens, and our gens are still technically more bot side leaning, although we have 3, but it kind of flexes either way. Our top 3 gen is incredible, but neither of our totems are inside of it, and we need more than 3 gens to hold. A 4K1 would only be the tile. Rail is looking for more, and right now on ADHD, he's looking for a tag, and ADHD has done nicely to prevent that. He's all the way at 4 right now, and has managed to get the stun on this pallet, playing around the God Rock in the short side quite nicely. Has Lice to send it to 3. He's going to be able to avoid that shot just in time, and that gives him even more distance back to the top side. He's walking to break chase just there, but we'll continue to play around 3. That shot does connect. Lorraine with Cigar only needs to hold him here for as long as possible. Try to drag him towards the bottom side, but that will be the first tag. I believe ADHD has opted to stay at 3. The Jiggy hasn't come out, and yeah, he's still closely hugging this window here on the matchsticks. Has managed to vault on the inside, has gotten away yet again. That's gotten him some extra distance around. The second vault does come on out. We get the third. I was going to say we fake it actually, but ADHD has made it back just in time. That's the window blocked, and he's lasting as long as his team needs. Look at that gen progress. We do see Sky about to pop theirs, and I believe PZ and Dog are also split, so that's going to be 3 generators nearly complete for a first chase, typically of what you would expect from a slinger set, but still unbelievably well played. We also see PZ pausing to take that pain res, allowing Dog on this gen at 8 to potentially pop still, but not in time. Lorraine hot on his tail, and now we'll be searching him out. He's going to do his best to not get found, because if he does, being next to ADHD and giving away a quick tag would be bad. Unfortunately for Lorraine, that tag will not come out. ADHD will already be off that hook, and he's sent it to 2. We do have Undying Aura on him, so we know exactly where he is, and I do believe his BT is about to be out, so the shot could come out to connect, but for Wholesome Chungus Killer, we have the edge map to run around. There's a pallet here. He was going to swing right through it. I don't even know if Lorraine had realized it was there until he had swung, and that's going to be ADHD once again on the ground. But Dog popping his gen finally at 8, and do know that PZ's gen, wherever it may be, is still actually out of the trial. It was popped a moment ago. I didn't realize that happened, but regardless, that is our 3rd generator of the trial popping, and now Sky freely able to sit on these bottom side gens, and I believe Dog is also rotated down to the bottom side of the map for another one of these gens. Lorraine cannot afford to secure ADHD anymore. He has to get very, very active. 5 and 7 are the actives, and he needs to ensure that one of these gens does not pop, or ideally both of them, for his win of the 4K2. But with ADHD off the hook, the 4v1 still in effect, and him being reset on the top side, Lorraine is going to have to look for another chase. Dog is doing their best to stealth out the killer, and I do not think Lorraine is going to be finding him. We're checking in all the wrong places. Consolidation, though, at least this gen at 7, will be regressing with Ruin, which is still in the trial. Ruin and Undying both are here. Dog has finally been caught out, and he's also spotted this totem in Shack, so that's potentially going to get cleansed eventually, but it does require Dog to both get away from Shack in this chase, but more ideally, last in it. The shot finally will come out. We've managed to drop Shack pallet nonetheless, so we're only going to be able to do so much. We will still get the tag, but now we have to break the pallet, and that does mean Dog has so much distance back to the top side.
I'd have to say this would be a very tough situation if you were in the shoes of Lyriel at the moment. You are literally at your win condition, and these gens are just diabolical. Basically, say 2-2 split with literally the most distance you could ask. for our Survivor side that they would be wanting as possible. And we've lost that really nice 3-gen setup that we did have on the top side with that first cluster of the 3-gens popping at the start as well for that beautiful first chase from ADHD, really buying a lot of time for their team. A nice shot though onto Dog though, who gets the down, but we don't have eruption or anything like that, so our survivors are just able to commit, and it looks like we're going to be doing a double up on this 5-side gen to secure that removal of the win condition away for Team Nyx. But we still have Tycon, we do have Ruin, and we do have Pain Res, with Undying still in play. So I do agree, Chief, that with that spotting of the Totem and Shack, we could eye it off. But in saying that, that will be our Undying proccing. So we'll still, after that, have Ruin in play as well. And with the chases that we're having at the moment, we may not even need to sniff out those, or even attempt to snuff out those totems. Looks like we may be going for another double up from our Nia and our Rick. Yes, both of our survivors on our 7 side, doubling up the 7 hill gen. Bit of a dangerous gen to be working with, all things considered, since you only really have this hill into a palletless shack to try and play for, so they're really relying on their stealth to not get caught out in a pretty rough corner of the map. But if they don't, it does mean that they get to have a good amount of time. But unfortunately, for PZ, they have been spotted around the little Z-wall clutter on the edge map, and we did see, I believe, Rick Sky was in the locker, I believe, for head-on, but PZ is not able to make it back around or even make an attempt to use that head-on, and will be going down, unfortunately. So this will be another Pain Res on the board at least, getting some more stages, or, oh, okay, it looks like we're going for a basement hook instead. Lyrial wanting to really apply that basement pressure that we saw in the first set. If you missed it, unfortunately, I'm sure there'll be VODs up to be able to review it, because honestly, it was amazing work of this loop with Shack and the basement hooks against as a killer like Slinger. So nice little head on from Sky though, just to buy a little bit of time in case the killer decided to go for a bit of a yoink. Lyrial trying to go for it, but with that missed shot on Sky, it looks like we may actually be able to get out of the basement, but we will need to try and body block for Sky. But I am saying that Caster's kicks in because it doesn't even matter. I've been completely not spotting the fact that our last gen of the trial was being worked and has now popped. And Sky has done exactly what they needed to do, take that shot for PZ so that they can get out of the basement. And now as long as Sky can get some good distance away from the basement, maybe avoid a shot, we could look at a pretty good endgame. Does avoid the shot as well, and I think I did just see ADHD coming in to try and support Sky on the way out. Yes, the whole team is here. Oh, we get a shot through though. ADHD not able to take the hit for Sky, so they will be going down. Some Nopers coming through, and the FTP coming from ADHD. Sky is back up again. A single hit take from ADHD is all they can offer. Now it's just a run to the gate. They missed the shot though. Lyrial unfortunately not able to connect that follow-up shot as well to get a second down. ADHD doing what they needed to do to secure the outs for their teammates. The hero that all survival lobbies would love to see. ADHD will not be escaping, but they are the best survivor to be remaining with the Slinger and the Entity. So beautifully done endgame. I'm a little bit shocked. And also one of the highest skill ceiling killers, in my opinion, as well, to pick up. So those members of the community and players of the competitive scene that main this killer, utmost respect to you all for the performances you can put on, because this killer ain't no pushover when it comes to, oh yeah, start picking up Billy, it's a fun killer, sure you'll be able to do it. It is not that easy. This killer does have a lot of like mechanical side to his kit, and just overall, like, especially if you're one of those builders that go for those heavy aggression with the M2, avoiding the clobbers with the M1, the skill expression can definitely come out true and true. But LZY for next will be putting up the result and showing if they are able to continue pushing forward and hold the reputation against a team like Renewal. And Renewal will be trying to challenge that and aim for, as you mentioned, Chief, that 6th stage out that I think we have been seeing a bit more and more so, considering Billy's time in comp has been regressing slowly, and I think this is another time of a unorthodox sort of build coming through with a very full totem build coming in for LZY. And a very quick down onto our no Myther gamer ADHD, the exact survivor you're probably wanting to be your first of the trial to get out of the game, since without no Myther, we can start looking at getting a little bit sluggy with it as well and really amping up that pressure. And also with crowd control, Wretched Fate, alongside Ruin Undying, a very full commitment to our totems for our build. This is going to be either a really risk, high reward moment, or it could blow up in our face if these totems end up being removed very quickly. But I'm excited about this. I like seeing totem builds, especially on a killer like Billy, and it's nice to see the change from your typical stuff like Eruption, Bam, Pain Res, and perks along those of that nature. So this is a nice refresher of pace for a Billy set to see. And a very quick down from LZY onto our ADHD means that we do get a very quick start to our trial and immediately into our chase with Dog as well. So this is looking relatively good for LZY at this stage. It looks like we are going back just to make sure that we do secure that second onto ADHD, while Sky and PZ have been able to get 2 generators to very high progress at the moment. Dog's generator just, also PZ's generator is progressing over that 50% mark, and Sky's very, very close to popping, which is what we need. We need gens to be popping if we're going to let ADHD go to second, and with a killer like Billy, as soon as that saw comes up when you get close to going second, there is likely no chances of saving. So unfortunately, ADHD doesn't get to play too much of the game at this stage and will be going to second, but this should buy just enough time for PZ to be able to pop the gen if LZY doesn't find where it is and sniff out PZ's generator, which it doesn't look like we will be, so we will be getting our second gen of the trial popped. But Dog, unfortunately, may have been caught out in a bit of a rough spot. No, Overdrive maybe kicking in and causing LZY to lose that down. And Dog being our balance landing player does mean that they have main, which is exactly where they want to be to proc their balance landing and try and jiggy over towards our next tile. But looks like LZY is more than content to continue that and wants to secure that down onto ADHD, which I think 3v1 with Billy, Ruin, and all of your Hexos still in play as well, I think a relatively good position to be in, Chief, for our killer.
Yeah, 100% ADHD will most likely be exiting the trial on this hook, but we have a lot of progress split across the map. We did lose a totem, that's Undying out of the way, but we do see main is very highly progressed still, and we know that I believe it was Sky has rotated to get on 11, so we are cranking those motors in the background. And yeah, the risk of totems is obviously the fact that we can just lose all of our perks halfway through the trial. We haven't seen that happen so far. We know 2 of them are right next to that hook, so they were pretty unreachable for the majority of this game so far. But we also know that Sky has rotated away from this gen. That was a nice little bait. LZY's checking it, but Sky is on one of those topside totems, I would assume, and we're going to be losing one of those perks right away. I'm not too sure which one it is. I can only hope it would be Crowd Control. Probably not the one you were caring to lose the most. I actually think out of the 3 perks currently in the trial, it's the weakest, but of course, now main building is re-accessible to us in Chase, and Shaq still has a window that can be played, but we do now have Dog in Chase. He might have to play that Shaq window, but no, LZY, realizing that this Chase is in a non-ideal position, is going to head back over to main and see if he can prevent this gen from popping. He's done exactly that. This is PZ, our Sprint Burst DS Survivor, in Chase now, venturing over to the 4 side. We're running out of pallets on this side of the map quite quickly, and we only have this hill at 5. A tree does not buy us any safety. PZ on the floor. Sky and Dog, rather, ADHD is not in the trial. Sky and Dog are still splitting those gens. I'm not too sure where Sky is, but Dog has definitely made it back to main, and LZY is going to be looking to protect that again. His hook location is quite close to 3 generators. We have the one at 1, 2, and then obviously main still, but it's going to be a bit difficult to traverse. We have to deal with the fact that there's a lot of clutter in the way in between those 2 hooks. And speaking of things in the way, doesn't matter really now because PZ's already off that hook. Sky immediately there to save the day, and Dog barely unable to pop this gen at main. He's having to leave just in time. Sky is also rotated for a double, and the flick around the Sin Car has put Sky on the ground. My word, I don't think he was expecting that at all, and unfortunately now that's a hook right on top of main, but it was unfortunate for LZY and not our survivors because the gen pops regardless. Right now, LZY in a pretty strong spot. 2 gens do remain. The 3v1 is doable against Billy, but this 3 gen is going to prove to be quite easy to hold. We have gens in a line, and I know that's not a typical 3 gen, but against Billy it is quite strong still. You can kind of just send it in a straight line up and down the map, and that allows you to hold these gens quite nicely. We see PZ forced a pallet break there, but unfortunately that's just an M1 to secure his fate. His second hook of the trial. No DS to save him, as Sky was the one on the hook this time, but do still have that in our back pocket once we get off this hook. Probably going to look to use it, I would assume. We're going to play quite aggressively and fake out LZY as he heads over to 5, ensuring the fact that Dog couldn't be working this gen for free. And yep, exactly that. That gen will now be regressing with Ruin as Dog uses his balance landing to get back to main. He's cut off though by the chainsaw, and now he will have to venture deeper into the map towards 6. We have this dumpster filler, which we're going to greed quite nicely. LZY barely unable to flick around it, and that's exactly what our survivors need. Dog has made it all the way to Shack, and LZY cannot continue to chase that. PZ and Sky are currently nowhere to be seen, but we do know that they are both in the trial, and things that aren't in the trial right now is Ruin. That totem there, mid 2, is gone. We have one perk left, and this is where Billy starts to get a bit shaky. We might be in the 3v1. Sky's on the ground again. My word, that was an incredible flick. I was going to talk about the fact that it doesn't really matter that you are in the 3v1. You have survivors pretty hooked. You know, PZ could exit the trial at any second. Sky's on their second hook. We have one perk. Holding gens is going to become very, very difficult from this point forward, especially without Ruin, the perk we were using to hold gens the entirety of this match so far. And yeah, look, we're going to come over to 5. We're going to kick this gen. It's going to regress about 5% total, maybe even 10, because Dog's right here, and as soon as we leave, he's going to be right back on that gen. These gens won't regress very much for the rest of the game, and that's a really big boon for our survivors. Unfortunately, LZY is still checking towards 11. Nobody's been here the entire game, I don't think, and it's just peace of mind for him, I guess, to know that nobody is there yet. Somebody, though, does have to get Sky off this hook, and Dog is still sitting this gen here. We're definitely playing to get one more done. The position to get 2 is becoming less and less likely as Sky sits on this hook, but Dog is still quite safe with this hill. It's going to be quite difficult to flick around, and I think LZY knows that as well. He's tried to bait out the drop, but it hasn't worked out in his favor. That's going to be Dog making it to safety. The safety of an edge map filler, which he will have broken, and now a window in this tile at 6. Tile is quite difficult to play around. LZY's nearly done it, though, and that could have been Dog very quickly on the ground after that. And now LZY is going to have to play his damnedest around this window. Without BAM, it's going to prove to be quite difficult, but Dog will greed towards the pallet. The crouch comes out. He will survive, and that's going to be LZY leaving yet again. He's going to kick the gen once more and go scouting out for one of his 2 death hook survivors. Actually, no, we're looking for Dog yet again. He's still in this tile and has ventured further towards the shack, but LZY's actually lost sight, and back to the top side will have to go. The double at 1 is a threat, and we do see some crows leaving the area, so I would assume, yeah, the pre-leave has occurred. They've ventured all the way to 12, and LZY knows just as well as I do that our survivors have to still be close by, and we've got to spot them out now. There's Sky all the way, sorry, this is PZ rather, all the way at 11. He's going to have to last on these matchsticks right now. We do finally have Wretched Fate out of the trial as well. Unfortunately, cleanse Wretched Fate for the Obsession, who's about to be dead.
Yeah, a bit of rough timing for the Wretched Fate to be cleansed, because that could have been a bunch of time that we could have been on the motors, but obviously in hindsight we didn't know that PZ would have been in chase as quickly as possible, and only having our 11 cycle on a match 6 to play isn't really the safest loop to be playing against a Billy. So 2v1 with our 4 generators remaining, that 11 gen pretty much I'm pretty sure has had no attention whatsoever, so we've been hard pushing for our 1 and 5 side of the map areas with gen progress, and it looks like we have managed to find Dog back on that hill gen again. Obviously, with being our balanced landing player, definitely the safest gen for them to be working on, but that saw is blue, so we've got the enhanced speed with eerie engravings and the buffs that you get from it going blue, and poor Dog will be getting slogged at that point. No safety to have all on that area of the map, and we know that this is our only other gen with progress, so we know we can just slug Dog, check on our gen over at the one side, and maybe do a quick check on that hill gen just to give it a kick as well and get it regressing slowly. And that basically secures our 4K2 if I believe it is Sky cannot get Dog back into the trial. I'm not sure if they have any medkit charges left, so they won't be able to recover themselves. They do have UB, I believe I saw those, so that could be a saving race potentially, but LZY is just a bit more concerned about these gens. Just spend a little bit of time over by them just to make sure that they've regressed back down. So basically, completely deny the chance of one of them being snuck onto by Sky and popping while we are scouting them out if Sky is able to stealth out. Sky, I believe, did have enough medkit charges, it looks like, to reset themselves. They are once again healthy. So maybe looking at trying to get Dog back into the trial as well so that they can attack these generators as 2 survivors once again. But no, it looks like we've actually stopped the regression at 1 and we've been caught out, unfortunately. I could see the vision of maybe just trying to stop him pre-leave as we saw before, but it was just not fast enough of a pre-leave. We've dropped the chem trap on the pallet, and it looks like LZY may just end up eating it, just hovering by the pallet at the moment, making a decision of whether or not to go for a nice little curve. Oh no, we're waiting for over overcharge. Okay. Sorry, not overcharge. Overdrive. I've like lost all the over-related things with overclock and all that sort of stuff. But respecting the chem trap, life finesse, I believe, coming through for Sky, making all the way towards our main side. But we're not going to have too much left. Dog was able to get picked up though, but unfortunately Sky will be going down, and if we get picked, that won't be UB used, but we are slugging to try and secure the down back onto Dog, which means that UB could come back into play, meaning both of our survivors, if Dog can have a phenomenal chase at this stage, could be back in the trial. Unfortunately, the rubbish caughting up LZY and allowing Dog to make it all the way back to the shack. No more crowd control either, so we have access to the window again, and butter, boom, on the window of shack. Definitely not a perk you'd expect to see too often, but yes, making windows just as bad as pallets with chem trap, so interesting to see. Unbreakable also was procced by Sky to allow them to try and get back up to that one side generator, but obviously LZY is not allowing that and has pushed Sky off that generator into the corner of the top side of the map. They go. A beautiful little flare out does avoid the saw, but the clobber comes out with the M1 from, I believe it's a hockey stick, I'm pretty sure, but yeah. That will be, unfortunately, Sky back on the ground again. UB has been spent, so we don't have that to pick ourselves back up. And we see the blood of Dog on our main side. And they're just accepting their fate at this stage, because at this point, it's wraps. A 4K2 has been secured by LZY, and definitely putting on that show that I've seen them put on with previous Billy sets as well. So definitely showing that they are capable, especially against a team like Renewal. But Renewal definitely kept that pressure up, considering the build that they were going against. And originally, the pressure they had, considering an unfortunate early down onto ADHD, did result in their No Mither Gamer being removed from the trial and having a pretty tough 3v1. But, you know, overall, I think it was a pretty good performance of both sides for our first Billy set. This being Nyx's set choice, you'd expect a very good result. And Renewal is now needing a 4K3 to take set 2 and make it a 2-0. So
to see. Dark Lord sets have to be played out very, very heavy on the macro side, and these are two teams that we have seen are capable of playing quite together and quite efficiently when they need to. So I'm sure Dark Lord is going to be another set for the ages, but right now, the second half of Billy is the focus. A 4K3 is what Yokai needs to take it, but more likely a 4K2 or a 4K1 to either tie or have the set go to Nyx, and that will, of course, result in the tiebreaker we were talking about moments ago. We're just going to have to see how this one plays out, because like you said, getting some slugs going around early, potentially capitalizing on the fact that Billy can just chain together downs is exactly what Yokai is going to need to do if he does look to take this. His build is less aggressive. We have Bam, we have Eruption just to keep us safe. Ruin still in our back pocket, though, for that early game. If it doesn't get cleansed, it can be quite strong, and speaking of strong, this 3-gen would have been if Yokai wasn't playing for gens to not be popped at all at this point, basically. L'Oreal, No Mither Survivor has been spotted out. He also is our obsession, so DS most likely in his build. And Yokai definitely finding a less than ideal chase because of that. L'Oreal's got this nice little rock quite nicely, which is quite hard to flick around. And yeah, there you go. You see the results of that. L'Oreal able to crouch safely in that tuck corner and make it to the pallet. But now, from 50s to 2v1, we're going to force the pallet break. L'Oreal will run around, and to 1 we go. We don't make it in time. That's an M1 to put us on the ground. And our first hook, probably a little bit slower, but still very, very fast for Yokai. And he's going to have to drag to further the bottom side, because once again, that 3-gen top side towards 12, top mid, and 11, whilst being unbelievably strong, is not enough for us to take this set, and Yokai is definitely going to do his best to secure this win. We do have another survivor here who's had to leave main towards the bottom side, being spotted out. Not too sure who that is, but the rail has been unhooked in the background as we headed over to Shack. We know that somebody was on 6. I saw some sparks as we ventured close by, so I'm going to have to spot out whoever that may be. It is Hermes in the tile. The pallet now gone. He's only got this window to play around. Yokai might be able to collect this down. He's going to flick around, but the flick is wide, predicting the flare out, and Hermes will unfortunately survive life to make it further away. We run the edge map now. This is where things get dicey. This is where chainsaws prove to be difficult, because this Z-wall could buy us some safety, but the tuck once again means that Hermes will live. Yokai gives him Shack. That'll be Hermes doing enough so far. Venturing now towards the 8 side of the map. The chainsaw doesn't connect yet again. This is what happens when you do have a Billy and a bunch of rocks in your way. Sometimes you just can't get where you need to in the chases, and Yokai's recognized that that chase is going to be too difficult, and we do not have enough time, so back to main we go. This is Maya interrupted on that gen. It will be regressing now with Ruin. We've spotted out LZY, who's just been able to crouch the Saw all the way at 4. The pallet does get dropped. We're going to have to win some 50s, but Yokai's just looking to break it, instead zoning our survivors away from the gens once more. Back to main we go. We need these gens to regress, and sitting in between them with a big blue chainsaw does exactly that. We can't get back on them, and what's better than letting the survivors do nothing than trying to have one on a hook? LZY back in chase here at 4. The pallet is in our way. Yokai's tried to break it, but the cancel came out just too early, so the pallet will remain. LZY has now taken his distance to 2, and Yokai once again needs to go back to main. Mayo will make the window just in time, and up the stairs, potentially our balanced landing survivors. Yokai vaults the window to make sure we don't have access to that in this chase any longer, but Mayo with the drop. Don't think that was balanced landing, actually. I heard a scream, and yeah, that will be them taking their distance nonetheless. LZY forced off 4 yet again. We also have 4 generators remaining in the trial. Our first one has popped, and right now we do have another down. Yokai able to flick around that dumpster filler and put LZY on the ground. A second gen has popped. Mayo barely able to escape that Saw, and that does put our survivors in a very strong spot. Yokai would need to 4K right here, right now. We're going to have to get sluggy with it to do so. We do see somebody rotating for the pick onto LZY. They are at 5, and actually Yokai isn't risking anything. We're just going to take this hook after being unable to down Mayo towards the bottom side. Right now, the situation, Ghosty, is looking dire for Yokai. We do see 2 survivors at main. They were trying to double, just get that gen out of the way, achieve their win con, but... Sorry, rather, the tie con. But right now, the locations of all our survivors is known to us. We're going to be able to, barely unable to get this flick around the Sin car, actually. I was expecting that to be a down for sure, but Yokai unable to get that, and we'll just get the pallet out the way and force Maya into the topside deeper towards this dumpster filler now, which will buy us some more safety. Once again, Ghosty, I think the situation is proving to be quite dire for Yokai. There's really a lot of ground we are losing every single second. The gens are pumping. We can't do anything but let Ruin regress them, and sitting in between these gens can only do so little when they are so split like this.
Oh yeah, and especially understanding that Billy does have a lot of mobility with that chainsaw. There's a lot that Yokai needs to be doing at the moment, and you can only do so much as one killer against 4 survivors. And with only one more generator needing to be popped before the win con is denied from Renewal and we enter that tie con spot, another gen after that will secure the set win for Nyx. Definitely seeing why they may have opted to pick this set. They have been putting on a performance and really buying a lot of time, since we are only at our 3rd stage of the trial, with the 2nd stage coming through onto LZY, and still having all 3 of our remaining survivors up and able to work our gens. We do see that the gen here at 12 was being worked, but the deathly sound of one of our generators on the bot side denying Renewal that win condition does get popped, and LZY manages to get unhooked. They managed to slip in and make it all the way to main for that gen pop as well. So all 4 survivors back on their feet. LZY is still injured, but at this stage doesn't get a chance to reset because we are immediately back into chase. So with the obsession being on Lyrial, high chances of no DS for them, and with the Scream as well, no balance landing. So LZY will be our first sacrifice survivor for the trial, but we are entering the 3v1 with 2 gens remaining, and we only need 1 more to pop to take the set. So 1 more good chase from the survivor side of Nyx will secure them the set, but Lyrial is probably not the survivor they were probably wanting to be in chase, unless we do have a juicy one, since they have no health state due to no Myla. So we have the options of either just an M1 or the Saw to down Lyrial, but that does mean that Hermes and Maya can both be still working their generators while this chase is happening, and that chase was doing quite well, honestly. Maya having to leave this 12-side generator and make some distance as Yokai came back to check on it. Still has the chance. It's never over until it's over to potentially at least secure the tie, but the gens are starting to mount the pressure. This main gen is so close to popping, so with all things going on cheap, I think it's looking a bit on the GG side for Yokai, but they're still doing their best to hold on to things.
Yeah, look, Yokai's going to need it down right here, right now. We are triple splitting these generators. May are nearly that down already, but we do have LTs to play around. We've actually just used our exhaustion to send it away. I believe that might have been lies. Actually, no. We've not decided to send it at all. I thought we had taken our distance to 12, but Maya will instead play around these some more and take some distance away to the bottom side. Main now being pressured away. That is going to be Hermes having to leave this generator. But the more time we spend with Maya and Hermes, we know the rail is sitting at 11 pretty, getting that generator done. And Yokai, looking towards it now, recognizes the fact that he might need to head over there himself. Rather, playing for this down eruption would save the day, but we're not going to be able to just yet. We did have a pillar in the way. We still have this tile at 6. It might not be a pallet, but it's still got some walls in the way and a generator to buy us some safety as we hug around Hermes. Now trapped in the corner, will meet his fate, but it is far too late. The generator at 11 has popped. That is the win for Nyx. They have managed to take their set. They are 1-1 level with Renewal in the match, and what a way to do it. I do think that 3v1 was played quite nicely. Being able to triple split those gens did buy them really, really good position, and unfortunately for Yokai, it was just too little too late with the down onto Hermes. And speaking of too little too late, that traversal towards Maya on the top side was also just unfortunately timed. That's going to be the 5th gen of the trail, popping quite literally in our face, and Maya now stuck at these TNLs at 1 will have to do their best to escape the chainsaw of Yokai. You see Hermes and Lorraine having been unhooked and able to get on one of those gates. We will be seeing stages out the door, and I'm not too sure if Maya will be one of them. We're going to have to do our damnedest to last. We still have these windows. One of them has been blocked, so Maya is going to have to try and escape the tile. We do not have a strong resource remaining anymore, and Yokai is just doing their damnedest to make sure we zone Maya towards the edge. Right now, giving them access to the remaining section of the map. Lorraine is also here to take it down. That's our Nomizer Survivor. We are unable to skirt around him, and that does give Maya access to main. They're going to have to do their best to still try and get to this gate. The chainsaw unable to connect on that window, so back further, deeper into the map we go. Maya having to do their damnedest once again to avoid this saw. Tires only in the way. We crouch perfectly timed, and that means the saw will not get us on the ground. Maya, though, with nothing left to do except for flare out and last some more. Lorraine has gotten themselves off the ground. Maya trying to do their best yet again, but this time, 3rd time's the charm for Yokai. That's going to be Maya finally on a hook. Our 4th fresh of the game, our 6th stage so far, with the potential of it amounting to 8, and Yokai is quite proud of that one. 8 stages, exactly on the average, and I do think an incredible result, but it looks like Lorraine and Hermes might be looking to play for it. I'm not too sure what their plan is right now, but Lorraine is slowly inching in, and Yokai has ventured a bit too far away, so that's going to be an unhook completely for free. Lorraine has tried to dead hard, whilst Maya has taken the hit, so this removes the safety that Lorraine has. We're not going to make it to the window in time for Yokai, so that will mean he will make it inside Shack into safety. But we're playing for Hatch. I don't know if Hermes is out, so yeah, that's not worked out at all, Lorraine. Unfortunate, buddy. That's still the 8 stages I alluded to. Very well played by Yokai. A good result, but not enough.
Yeah, no, but this shows you both sides of how ability set can go. We saw the...
And welcome back, everybody. We are heading into our tiebreaker of the Dark Lord level. Right now, 1-1 on the matchup. Renewal versus Nyx. This will decide who takes the game, and I do believe both of these teams are currently at this group's frontrunners for qualification. I do know that they would at least be within the top 4, and actually, worth noting as well, our next matchup, Envy versus Gospel, will change the way this group plays out. This is another matchup that could heavily impact the fates of Nyx and Renewal, but they are still playing for themselves to decide if they can qualify. We are halfway through our qualification stage, and Yokai's already off to a flying start, trying to secure himself a down. Lorraine caught out at 4, but will vault the window just in time to be able to avoid the dog dash, and Yokai will now be getting this pallet at 4 out the way. A jungle gym very quickly used, but Shack as well. Lorraine not taking any chances, wants to play as safe as possible, and that does give Yokai some time to leave. Those are 2 strong resources out of the way that he doesn't have to worry about later on, but holy hell, speaking of 2 strong resources, we've got 2 eye loops connecting to each other in the mid-map. That's wretched shop RNG, everybody. You'll love to see it, but Yokai now will be scouting back towards his top side. He does hear progress on this gen at 12. He's going to kick it just to get it out of the way, but that doesn't do us all too much. We don't have Eruption, our build. Turn back the clock, pop, and Pain Res, a Chinese classic at this point. We love our 3 instances of big regression, and Yokai definitely in favor of that as he ventures back towards the mid-map. Still scouting out another chase. This is Very well played by our survivors so far, not allowing Yokai to really get anything done and dusted. But finally, we've spotted out somebody at 10. They've taken their distance towards main, but their gen progressed at 9 was already pumping. You see a bunch of survivors on gens spread across the map as Yokai tries to teleport into the main building to cut off Hermes, but Hermes read beautifully into that and has doubled all the way back around main, has so much distance to play quite safe, and the God Palette here has been dropped. This is going to be Hermes holding distance around, and that gen at 10 has been spotted out. Maya back on it. SB to buy us some safety towards this pallet, but the Hellfire does come out. It barely connects. That was a beautiful shot from Yokai, and now Maya has to do their best to survive. We do have the pallet in this 4 lane to buy us some safety. Yokai unable to break it with his second bound, and Maya will make it around. I don't think the Hellfire is back in time, but I'm eating my words, and Maya's eating the dirt. That's our first down of the trial. We know that these gens here, these gens in this tile at 9 and the one there at 10 was highly progressed, and this isn't going to be a pain in us to slow down any other generators, but still, a very good start by our survivors so far, Ghosty.
Oh yeah, and I believe, Chief, we did see that first gen over, I believe, on the 2 side did get popped, so quite possibly our 1 side 3 gen, which I believe was our more tighter side 3 gen, has been broken, but thankfully, Wretched Shop RNG has given us a nice deep 12 main and 10 side 3 gen on the top to play for, and unfortunately, Maya's hook is pretty much smack bang almost in the middle of all 3 of them, so turns out a bit of a rough death spot, meaning that we can sort of let this gen over on our 10 side slowly regress back down. Not having Eruption since we have opted for that pop turn back pain res combination. Love seeing turn back. I'll never get over that perk at all. But yeah, definitely not a hook in the best position at the moment if we wanted to be trying to break up this top side 3 gen still. But it could also mean that we have that freedom to more pressure the bottom side of the map, since it looks like Yokai is happy to sort of just let Maya go second and just sort of proxy around the area to make sure that these 3 gens don't get touched and Maya goes to second. We do also have that sort of gen loosely down towards the 8 side as well to also be guarding at the same time, so a fair few gens around this hook, unfortunately, to be able to guard and secure a second on, and we only have, I believe, 2 other generators that we can be looking at working, so relatively good gen spotlight split ups for Yokai to be able to guard around with bats as well, to be able to travel around. And once again, as I mentioned, Maya, unfortunately, being in the middle of it all, going to be a little bit difficult to try and get them out, since Yokai is seeming to be very content to just let those other 2 bot side gens go and play fully for these 4 generators on this section of the map. We do see a survivor, LZY, rotating in for the unhook, Hellfire being held to immediately remove the BT from Maya, meaning they don't have anything left to really play for apart from any pallets or resources they make and or might be able to make it. So we're on our last life for Maya. The bounds are coming out, not connecting as they get caught up on the bumper of our car. So we're able to make it another way around the car, but we are back in Dracula's human form, so we can pull up the Hellfire, secure the body block on the pallet, and I believe with this... No, I'm also eating my words, Chief. Oh, no, wasn't going to be eating my words. Hermes came in for a hit take for Maya to extend her chase, but the Hellfire, unfortunately, does, in fact, go through survivors. So Maya will be pain res for their last hook, which is exactly what Yokai would have been wanting. And poor Hermes will not be able to buy that extra time for Maya, and also take the health state for it as well. So we are entering our 4 gens with 2 survivors remaining. Turn back the clock being applied as we switch forms and catch Lyrial stealthing up on the hill to try and move away from the generator while we're in Bat's form, but perfectly timed transform does catch them out. Hellfire being pulled up now to try and secure the down, puts it away though, because looks like we much rather play the Wolf and just get a quick little M1 bite down onto Lyrial. This could be our second pain res of the trial. Yes, it will be, as we don't really have any other... Well, we won't make it to that back main gen, and it looks like Yokai is already planning where they're going to be crossing over to next with that downed pallet on the 10 side, able to cut through main and check on our 10 side gen, catching off potentially, I think this is Hermes again, if I'm not mistaken, but it might not be. It is, yes, Hermes, over on our 10 side generator, wrapping down towards the bottom side to try and drag Yokai as far away as they can down, but a quick turn back to knock that generator down towards the mid 8 side, and the down onto Hermes secures our 3rd fresh hook of the trial. And once again, this dreaded hook nearby our 10 generator is the opposite hook for Yokai to put Hermes on, and this is becoming a bit of a problematic hook since we can pretty much patrol all of our remaining generators now that we've brought it down to 2 gens remaining and popped those bottom side generators for free. And we don't really have to venture too much, even though I think Yokai is doing a little bit of scouting to try and catch the reset. If we do, the game could be over right here, right now. But with that venture out, it does mean we are able to sneak in and get the unhook onto Hermes, but we are straight back onto them. Unfortunately, they weren't able to make too much distance away or stealth out Yokai and are back in chase once again. We also, I believe, would still have a turn back after we hook Hermes again. Another pain raise, so plenty of regression to potentially put up as well. Hellfire being held to try and push Hermes away from the pallet, switching back to our Wolf to try and secure that down. 50s pallet time is where we're at. Dodging the Hellfire though beautifully, and it does make Yokai drop. Very well played from Hermes. When you're on that bus pallet, that's usually you have to just play 50s and hope that you win, because once it's dropped, it's basically a death pallet unless you are the 50s demon and can last. But once again, we've got a very nice gen cluster, even though our back 12 and that mid 8 gen are very split. It's overall, with Drax mobility, definitely something we can look at holding. And that's exactly what we're doing, and putting on a good performance with it. Definitely keeping the pressure up. Hermes did get themselves reset with, I believe, their med kit, which is what we need. We need health states at the moment so that we can make our chasers last to try and continue our pressure of these generators. There's no eruption as well, so we don't have to worry about multiple gens after being kicked being erupted, and once you go down, obviously that regression hitting it. We're obviously heavily relying on that pop and Pain Rose will turn back, but thankfully, turn back the clock does not apply pop, so good death swap by Lyriel, and a nice firecracker as well. I think Lyriel actually had a firecracker in our previous set as well. Extends their chase for a bit longer, but they also will be going down, so this will be our second stage onto Lyriel. Might be able to drag for a Penrose, but nope, looks like Yokai just wants a very quick hook, and most likely is going to go hit one of our 4 generators with turnback, and the second with pop, so in a relatively good position still. This could still lead to a 4K0, 4K1 if our survivors don't give away too much more and are able to keep this pressure up on that back gen, plus the 8 gen if that. We've decided to leave this gen on our 10 side as well, since I think it's a bit more safer to be splitting the 8 and 10 gens over the 10 gen that has been pressured, but is just in a relatively unsafe area now, and with this loose 3 gen on the top side, more prio for Yokai to probably be guarding at the moment, so I think it's going to be tough, Chief, for our survivors to really put it back down, but I still definitely see him getting at least one more gen done. If LZY can have a juicer chase as well in this upcoming run, a 4K1, maybe 4K0 is still on the table, I believe.
Yeah, I think a 4K1 from this position is the most likely result. That Gen at 12 is still highly progressed, and I wouldn't be too surprised if we do see it pop. Yokai now is doing his damnedest, though, to try and get LZY on the ground. This would be yet another pain res, and LZY is going to narrowly be able to dodge that bound. This buys him some distance towards this eye loop, which is safe and unsafe at the same time, because the safety you think you have with your distance can sometimes be interrupted by that Hellfire, and unfortunately for LZY, or rather Yokai, he was unable to connect it, so LZY will live another day. And now Hermes is our desired target. He was here at 8 and will take an M1 tag and force himself into the tile at 6. We have another one of these pseudo jungle gyms to play around, and the bounce coming out that's going to potentially put Hermes on the ground. And yeah, exactly that. The little bugged interaction there with the slamming your head into a wall does result in the quick down, but too little, too late. That's 12 being completed. This will pain res 8 now, and it's not being worked, of course. That was homies Jen, LZY, and Lorel could be doing anything at this point, but I am predicting a reset probably towards this top side of the map, and I think Yokai is on the same page. He's going to scout towards 2, looking out for any rotating survivors, and we do have some scratch marks right below us now. Yokai venturing to follow. That is LZY we do here. He's towards this bus at 3, and he's going to have to do his damnedest to last. We make the window in the backside, and now the rail will be venturing back into the mid-map once again near these 2 eye fillers, but somehow don't even know where Yokai came from, but was right on top of him. That's going to be him on the ground. And unfortunately now for our survivors, we have been unhooked, but Lorel and Hermes could both exit the trial at any moment. They are both death hook, and Hermes here is stuck at 8. The Hellfire is in the hand, and unfortunately the Vault does not buy us the protection we wanted They'll be homies exiting the trail. The rail, flustered, now probably looking for that pickup onto LZY in the mid-map. And yeah, exactly that. The 2v1 does begin. Both survivors on their feet.
Yes, they are on their feet, but in saying that, they are injured as well. We haven't had much time to look at getting some resets happening. Also, Turnback denying that little bit of progress that we did have on the main from LZY, but LZY just has nothing left. Going for the pull from the locker, but just ends up getting M1'd with that slow ball into it, so we'll be getting slugged. And it looks like Yokai has managed to find Lyriel, I believe, out on the buses, or have they managed to slip away? I'm a bit surprised if we managed to escape this. We do see the centaur though, so we are aware that a survivor is nearby, and we have got eyes on Lyriel again. May have actually been able to slip away if it wasn't for the fact I believe the blood is a bit more brighter and more easy to spot in the wolf form. And obviously Hellfire as well, sorry, the scent orb from the wolf form as well, giving our position away. The big dead hard, I believe, coming through from Lyriel to try and not take the down from the Hellfire to little to no use, obviously, as we did not connect it. So we only have the buses to be able to play for. But at this stage, LZY will need to be incredibly stealthy, because we could still potentially see the bleed out happening onto them. And a fresh hook bleed out would be really nice here, but unfortunately Lyriel will be going down, and we're not going to be going for them first. We are going to try and find LZY first to secure those stages, and they have been found at main. Very quick, good find by Yokai, securing that 4k1 for this set. I'm not a big knowledge of the macro side of things at this time, Chief. I'm still in a big learning phase, since there's a lot you need to learn with Killer, but I think that this was overall a very good set showing from Yokai, especially with the gen spawns, thanks to Wretched Shop. Had a really nice setup going along that top side, but to our survivors, getting at least that 4th gen of the trial completed, denying that 4k2 result, I think is what they need, since we have our Hellfire and the Wolfbounds to be able to play around it. So if it was any other killer, I'm sure they would be dreading seeing that sort of a setup, but that setup may not be on the table for Nyx's survive or Nyx's killer and Renewal survivors. So yeah, hopefully we'll get some pain reses early on as well. I'm expecting a bit more of a conventional build compared to what we saw previously with that pop, turnback, and pain res combination. Even though I do see it being quite a nice combination, Eruption's still such a good perk. It is just all round just an amazing perk to bring in if it is legal. Pretty much no matter what the circumstances is. Also a good fallback if you end up losing your Ruin if you are opting to play it. And as we can see, yes, Eruption will be replacing Pop, which I'm a bit intrigued by, as the clash in synergy with Turn back being still on the board. Hopefully that doesn't impact us too soon, but LZY already in chase with PZ. This is exactly the start you're going to be wanting to take a set potentially, especially if you don't have too long of a chase as well. So LZY initiating chase onto PZ is a very good starting position for Team Nyx, but already PZ pulling up a good starting chase. Hasn't taken first tag yet, but will be taking it now with the second bound coming through. But has what looks to be a lot of the top side of main to play for at the moment, since it does look like a lot of our generators are on the bottom side. Yes, we have that little 3-gen setup between the 8 and 6 section of the map, and I believe that was close to Shack as well for a loose 4-gen on the bot side as well, with one of those gens being corrupt. So PZ basically has the entire top side to be playing for at the moment, but they don't have any more to play for. Maybe a lock or hop just to extend the pickup time and make it that survivors have that little bit more time to put pressure onto these motors, but a quick drag does bring them all the way back down towards the 8 side. Looks like we are going to be going for a hit take from Sky to potentially deny the hook, but it doesn't come through. I'm pretty sure Sky is screaming, what the hell has happened there with that drag? That probably should have been a hit and off for PZ, but no, it means that they are still hooked. Turnback now being applied to our generator down towards that 8 side, and we are catching out Dog as well that was working that generator. So this has just gone a bit south for our Renewal survivors. I could definitely see the vision with that drag going for the hit to try and deny the unhook, and obviously our comms, well, the comms would have been there from PZ, hey, I'm a hit and I'm off, but it just does not come through, and Dog ends up getting hit as well. Thankfully, ADHD once again having FTP, giving PZ that extra health state to play for, since LZY is hot on the hills, but nope, we have caught out ADHD, and obviously with them being broken from that for the people, they are the new target at the moment. Obviously very early on for a tunnel out, but Drax probably would like to have a survivor removed ASAP. Oh, we read the revolt, but just ended up biting it a bit too soon. But we do get the double bound hit, securing that second down of the trial. Still though, obviously a bit of a saving grace to outsiders. No pain reses anywhere in this corner of the map, Chief. 2 stages on the board, first gen popped. Bit of a scuffed moment with the hook, but overall not the worst, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a bit perplexed by the fact that Sky didn't end up managing to take that hit to get PZ off the hook. That was a bit of an interesting interaction there, and it was definitely going to turn the tides of the game entirely in the favor of Renewal. That was a game-changing play that just didn't go their way at all, and if it had, honestly, that would have set them up for outs already. You really need that first down in a good location, and LZY was able to get that, and on top of that, because of the flustering communications, I would assume, from the interaction there, that our survivors gave away a bunch of free tags. ADHD and PZ at least are both healthy now in the trial. PZ having not been found after the, oh my word, that was a shot and a half dog put on the ground with that hellfire, unfortunately. This could be a basement hook as well, and basement hooks are very, very difficult to escape, but no. LZY opting to just take that pain res. It's probably going to hit this gen at 9 as finally Sky is being reset, and ADHD will be left to leave. LZY will be hot on his trail, though, heading over to that gen at 9, knowing it was being progressed, and just has to check to make sure it wasn't actually pain res, unless we did end up stopping the regression in that short time. Or I didn't see the sparks. Both are possible. I'm not too sure just yet, but LZY does, of course, know, and we'll spend the time to look around. The Scent Orb has dobbed in one of our survivors on this bottom side of main. He's sent it all the way for this unhook. This is most likely ADHD yet again. LZY does have the TP to cut us off, but too little, too late. Dog is off that hook for free. The Hellfire does come on out trying to hit that BT, but Dog will do enough to avoid it. The Medium Vault buys us distance into Shack, and the pallet has now been dropped to buy us distance towards the top side. This is exactly what our survivors need. Dog also would need to last. We still have a few strong resources around this section of the map, Crane being one of them, and we've opted to play it right away. The pallet is gone. I don't know when that happened, but the pallet is gone, and Dog, unfortunately, a bit preemptive with that vault, is vaulted right into LZY. It's him on the ground yet again, and unfortunately, that's a second hook on to him. Our survivors, their position has just gone from bad to worse with every interaction LZY has had so far. LZY is setting himself up for an incredible game. We have interrupted this gen at 6 yet again. The one at 9, I'm sure, is whirring, though. I'm sure we could see it pop if LZY doesn't check on it in time. And I think LZY is actually happy to just concede it. Wants to hold on to this gen at 6 and 8, and potentially the one now at 2. As, yeah, there goes 9. Nothing we could have done with the time we spent around the bottom side. But now, it is in LZY's best interest to just secure this death onto Dog. We really, I think, from this position, cannot play for the outright win. The 4K2 is going to be very difficult with the split of gens, and do still have 4 survivors in the trial, 3 on their feet, 2 healthy, as ADHD takes a tag, and yeah, there goes main. Dog also off the hook, so we are setting ourselves up for those outs still, despite all of the unfortunate circumstances which have occurred, but Dog will need to do his best to last. We're able to make it all the way to 1. We have this pallet in the 4 lane, but we have to do our damnedest to avoid the Hellfire, and unfortunately, Dog doesn't have a Hellfire to worry about, but instead the claws of a bat, and that will be him on the ground, exiting the trial at 1 generator remaining. The 3v1 at 1 gen with these gens, I do think, is doable. Unfortunately for our survivors, though, we are having to deal with ADHD being injured. That reset could come out very shortly, and it would be in our benefit, but LZY has a pretty strong footing here as well on the bottom side of the map. A lot of the resources have been removed, and on top of that, we do have at least holdable gens, and Sky gets spotted out right inside of them.
Yeah, it's a bit of a rough gen split to try and play for / hold, but is still doable with at least that gen by our more 6-side / 8 and the 2-side gen to be worked, but we need a monster chase from Sky right now. Champion of Light coming through from Sky to buy them that little bit of time, and our survivors are splitting the 2 gens that we mentioned before as well, so Renewal survivors definitely know what they need to do to still try and pull back this set, even with, as mentioned, all the shenanigans we were seeing with the earlier hook interactions and just the interactions that LCY has had with our survivors in general throughout this trial. The fact that we've been able to pull it back to this stage, even with all that stuff going on, has been remarkable work from our survivor side, but LCY has definitely kept up that pressure all throughout the trial. Sky sending it all the way down towards the corner of 5 to try and just take the best spot possible for their deaths and avoid being anywhere near our generators. And I think we may still have a pain risk hook along this side of the map. If I'm not mistaken, yes, we do, unfortunately for our survivors, have the deep 5 pain res hook that we can apply to the one of the 2 gens that we have been splitting, but that is our 4th fresh hook of the trial secured. And Renewal, I think, can still potentially pop this gen, but we need to get Sky back in ASAP. And as I've been yapping, we do, in fact, get Sky off that hook ASAP. So it's all going to come down to these last few chases. We need them to last. And if they aren't able to just hard stealth it, definitely need them to be going for a good run LZ wide. Not sure where our survivor has gone, so we're doing a quick locker check, but not paying enough attention or wanting to check both. We'll be going straight back towards the shack side. Sky using Champion of Light to slow walk around at that higher movement speed with the Champion of Light. Movement speed increase and avoid dropping our scratch marks. Turn back the clock being applied to this gen over on our 7/8 side of the map. And LZY hard searching around to try and find our survivor who has been working this side generator. So it's definitely going to be a back and forth for sure. Probably trying to use some of our centaurs as well, because it looks like we have opted for that brown centaur add-on to get more centaurs dropping. So hopefully we don't get outed by them, but being in wolf form, we could potentially swat our survivors if one of those orbs do drop. Our survivors doing immaculate work right now to try and stealth and get that reset onto Sky as well. So all 3 of our remaining survivors are at least healthy for their next inevitable chase, unless we manage to literally somehow just never get spotted by LZY ever again. But this is getting a little bit concerning. If we ventured very high up onto the top side of the map trying to find one of our survivors, and if we take too long, this could like definitely give us a kick in the gut later on, since this is just time that our survivors have had to be either be on generators or just be able to pre-leave very heavily as LCY does come back down towards this 7 side to check on this generator, which we see does have some progress and the regression has stopped, so we'll be giving that a quick kick for eruption. But yeah, I don't know how this set's gonna go with the amount of stealth that we're seeing, Chief. This could still be Renewals to take, even with all that they've had to go through and the performance LZY has been putting up.
I mean, definitely. I do think that in this position, considering the fact that we do have 3 survivors healthy now and a gen at about 50% as we see on the HUD from Sky, this tag comes in at a very opportune time for LZY, at least. It's a very bad tag for ADHD to take. He's actually not going to make it to this pallet, and that's going to be him smited down. A quick 2-tap has done LZY some favors, but yeah, I do think the position is still quite recoverable for Renewal. They only need to pop 1 generator, and of course, that requires 1 good chase and a double. Or, of course, we can play it a lot slower, which is what we're seeing. This pain res is going to halt our progress, but ooh, a very quick send for the unhook has been caught out entirely. This is Sky at the back of main, and unfortunately for our survivors now, this is where problems start to ring out. PZ could be gambling, sitting that gen as Sky is left, and I do think LZY is predicting that as we venture back towards 6. Now the unhook is free for Sky, and generator here is about 50%. It's been turned back, and PZ has not been found. Where is our missing Nia? LZY is not aware, but we know exactly where Sky and ADHD are. They are on the top side, having unhooked the man himself and potentially getting a reset off to reset their position. Right now, LZY is doing his damnedest to find PZ around this gen, and Sky actually has gotten on a gen himself. It's probably that gen at 2. LZY will inevitably have to go over to look for his survivors on the top side. ADHD could be anywhere, but Sky was over at 2, and LZY none the wiser of that just yet, but his position will be located eventually as we see some progress on this gen. We'll go kick it, get our eruption up, and potentially now look for those stealthing survivors. ADHD might have enough medkit to reset himself. I'm not too sure. We're just going to have to try and see what he does, but unfortunately, the HUD is still completely bugged because Dead by Daylight is incredible, and we, as the casters, cannot provide you insight into things like that. But LZY is now still looking for these survivors, venturing all the way to 11, predicting a reset to be coming out, and Unfortunately, he is oh so right, but oh so wrong at the same time. ADHD has been spotted all the way at 12, but he was not resetting. He was just trying to play it safe, and unfortunately, safety was not found. That's ADHD exiting the trial. This is more and more likely like LZY's game, and for Sky and PZ now, all they realistically need to do is get a hatch escape. That could be their next win condition if they don't think they're going to pop one of these gens. The 2v1 against the Dark Lord is quite untenable, but is doable. I have seen it done before, and honestly, the gen split is favorable enough. With both survivors healthy, their positions are doable. Frankly, they do have the potential to get this done, but I think LZY has spotted out Sky on the top side, and yeah, exactly that. He's going to be found out on his gen at 2. Now, LZY will come over and kick it just in case, get it regressing, get eruption on it, and head back over to 6. He doesn't want to commit to any chase just yet. PZ is our intended target right now, and his gen at about 50% will probably get kicked itself, and LZY will spend the time to look around and try to get an injury on the board as well. But PZ's stealth now is crucial. Sky potentially able to get back on that gen, get as much progress as possible, and LZY will have to spend the time to look. Not too sure where PZ has ventured to, but LZY has given up on his pursuit. He will head back over, actually baiting out that rotation from Sky and PZ. We've transformed right on top of the gen once more. We really want to find this survivor because Sky could do enough in this chase, and LZY inches towards that gen at 2 every second, making sure it is still regressing, but it's going to be a push and pull situation for the rest of this match, Ghosty. We finally head back over to 2. We may spot out Sky as his gen's now at about 50%, but no, his stealth and his pre-leave is good enough. Gonna have to spend the time looking for him, but this gives PZ the time on the gen, and LZY can't afford much time left on that generator, and he knows that all too well as PZ leaves once more. Gives Sky so much time back on that gen. His gen went from about 20% to now just as high as PZ's at 6. They're both at about 60 to 70%, and the 2v1 is looking more and more doable every single second, Ghosty.
Oh yeah, no, usually you see a 2v1 and you basically call reps there. Usually against most of the killers, a 2v1 is not going to lead to another gen popping, and Drac can have those quick chases to prevent that from happening, but PZ, Stealth, and now Sky also with their pre-leaving as well, have once again brought things back for Renewal and have clawed back into their position to potentially get this last gen popped, which is all they need for this set win. Sky sending it all the way up towards our top side. We do know that Eruption was applied, I believe, to that gen down on the bot side, so we will need to hopefully just make it all the way over to the corner and hope that it's enough time and make sure that we comms that hopefully Eruption down. A beautiful little flare out does avoid the down, allowing PZ to secure